Today we are going to be taking a look at our first gear system. There are two versions of it that I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a simple gear train. Okay, these are the main notes that we're going to be looking at as far as how the system functions. We're going to take a look first at simple gear train A. Okay, the first thing we want to know about it is that it is a reversible system. That means that we can have either of our two gears be the input or the output. We can interchange it. Reversible in this system has nothing to do with going backwards and forwards like we would normally think. This means that we can, again, change where we start the system and where we stop the system. In a simple gear train A, just A is just for first example, it's going to have the same size gears. Okay, so when that happens, when you have the same size gears, your input and output are going to be going the same speed. And with this system, it has two gears linked together, which I'm going to show you in a second. And if there's an even number of gears, which we will have two, then that means that our first and our last are going to move in opposite directions. And this actually applies for any even number of gears in a row. Okay, so let's take a look at the system first. So here is our simple gear train A. We can see that we have the same size gear on the top that we have on the bottom. Okay, so when this system turns, I could use this as my input, or I could use this as my input, but it's still going to go the same speed on the top and the bottom gear. Okay, now I was talking about how an even number of gears means your first and your last will go in opposite directions, and if you look, these gears are spinning towards each other here. Okay, and so even if I had 100 gears lined up in a row, number 1 and number 100 would be moving opposite directions. Okay, and that's important to know for how we want our input and our output of our system to move. Okay, we can take a look a little bit closer on the side of this here. We talked about using our bearing flats in here. Okay, that's our bearing flat. You can see on the other side I've got the push rivets sandwiching from the other side. Okay, so that means that I have push rivets coming from right here. Okay, this allows that shaft to be stabled, and again I have two different points that balance it out. Okay, so that's what I was talking about yesterday with it being we want a bridge rather than a teeter-totter. Okay, I'm supported once here and once here. Okay, and then I made use of the spacers in between there. Wanted to make sure these gears were lined up perfectly in a row. Okay, I have the shaft collars. I used the rubber shaft collars today, and those are, again, holding everything in place. If not, I would be able to slide these gears all the way off. Okay, another good habit to build is putting a spacer, at least one on each side of your gear. Okay, that's going to allow you to make sure to space that system off so that it doesn't touch any type of metal piece. And because that metal piece, again, if it rubs up against it, it's going to cause friction, and friction is going to slow your system down. Okay, so again, this is what our simple gear train A looks like, where both gears are the same size. And I could have used any size of these gears. Notice that these teeth are very small and they do interlock and move together. That's going to be important later when we talk about a different type of gear. And so these gears will actually link together. Okay, these are teeth gears. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at another simple gear train. I call it simple gear train B because it's a second example. Again, this system is going to have two gears to it, and it is going to be reversible. So we can have either gear, the top or the bottom, as our input, or we can have it as our output. Again, an even number of gears. We've got two gears in the system, and in it, that means that our first and our last are going to be moving in opposite directions. The difference here now with this system is that we're going to have one big gear and one small gear. Okay, And what's important about that is before we talked about in the in the second bullet point under simple gear train A, that if the gears are the same size, your input and output are going to be going the same, okay, same speed. Now, in this second simple gear train example, I'm going to have one bigger gear and one smaller gear, okay? And what we want to do if we want to speed our system up, we want to hook our power to the large gear. If we want to slow our system down, we're going to hook our power to the small gear. So if you want a system to move fast, power your large gear, that should be your input. If you want a system to move slow, you're going to power your small gear, and that will cause the system to go slower. Okay? So taking a look on this side, I have a bigger gear hooked to a smaller one. So again, if I want to have the system go fast, I'm going to power this big gear. This big gear is going to cause the smaller gear to spin faster. Okay? If I want the system to go slow, I'm going to power the smaller gear, causing this one to move slower. So input of a small gear, slow system. Input of a larger gear, fast system. Okay? I like to use the silly example of if you think about like a sledding and you have a small child on the sled and you have an adult pushing them. Okay? If the adult is pushing them, they're going to get that little kid moving pretty quick because they're not going to have to put a whole lot of effort into that. Okay? Okay, so they're going to be, the adult, the bigger gear, is going to be able to push that child a lot faster. And then if we change that around and we put the adult on the sled and have our child pushing, our child is going to have to work a lot harder to get that system moving. Okay, that means that they're actually putting more torque into that system. Okay, that's putting a lot more effort in there, and it's going to move slower because that child isn't going to be able to get that adult moving as fast. Okay. Again, take a look and review these. Pause your video if you need to. You're able to take a screenshot of this. That way you can review this or use it when you are answering the questions. I will ask questions over simple gear train A and simple gear train B. And then I might ask a couple questions in there with regards to the building basics that I reviewed at the very beginning of the video.